And scene.
Here we go. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Q&A this week for the 18 strong crew. Just gonna talk a couple things. I know our topic this week is kind of been fat loss, so we figured we'd touch on some of those things. I know you've got some questions in the queue there, Rhino.
Yep.
As well. You might want to change your name on the screen because it still says that you're me.
Oh, I should be so lucky.
Hey, I was able to connect. So the last couple of weeks we've been talking with Marina and talking about that Chimera, the Chimera apparel stuff. So I was able to have a chat with Mike. I think he's the CEO. I'm not sure. He's not the founder, but he might be the CEO or president about the stuff. And so hopefully we're going to be able to try out some of the gear in the near future. But it's really pretty cool. They're working with like the Premier League soccer teams. They're working with some NHL teams, the 49ers, the rugby teams over in the UK. So, and all are giving very big thumbs up to what this stuff does. So it's that whole infrared technology of like converting your body's heat back into energy for your system and recovery. So pretty excited to see that stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty good. When I see stuff like that right away, my radar goes off like, oh, is this another snake oil thing? But yeah, the people, athletes at that level are noticing a difference. There's got to be something to it.
I remember hearing something years ago that Tom Brady was working on something with Under Armour about something in the clothing that I don't know what it was supposed to do, but I remember thinking this is BS. There's no way that clothing can do that kind of stuff. And
Right.
and then you start to hear about what they actually can do technology wise. It's kind of crazy. So we'll have our reports to come on that one there. But we got some. Is the PNC this week? Got some kind of exciting stuff going on in the golf world with Tiger Woods playing in the near future.
That's a good question. Because they took a week off, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it is this week. Starts today.
It is this week. So, so that'll be kind of cool. I mean, just thoughts around the room here. Does anybody envision Tiger Woods playing at the Masters in April? You think he'll be? Victoria doesn't think he'll be ready. I think I'm going to reserve my judgment till after the weekend. It seems pretty crazy that he'd be ready that soon to play at that high of a level. I mean, I say that, but athletes come back from injuries within a year's time, all of the time. But I don't know the extent of what he had done with his fractured leg and all that stuff. But it sounded like he was pretty banged up, and they had to do quite a bit of reconstruction. So we'll see this week with his swing and everything. But
yeah, because I think there was a point where they weren't quite sure if he was going to be able to keep his leg or not.
Yeah.
So it's that serious, but he is Tiger Woods. I never count that guy out.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the swings that he's posted, and they were showing him hitting. I think he was hitting drivers, in the Bahamas when he had that event, and just practicing and stuff like that. But so it'll be interesting to see what he does there. I was watching some highlights. I didn't see much of the event last year when he played with Charlie, but I was watching some of the highlights this past week, and man, that kid's legit.
Yeah, he's pretty fun to watch. A kid that little he's like, I didn't even know he's so like perfectly mechanical.
Yeah. It looks like it's cool to see them like hitting balls next to each other. It's almost like in sync. It's almost like synchronized swimming, like watching them hit golf balls together, putting, chipping, all that stuff. So I haven't really paid attention much in the last several years of the PNC Championship, but I'm sure I'll tune in a little bit this week. There will be tons and tons of coverage, that's for sure. PNC is loving life right now with the resurgence of Tiger coming back in there.
Plus, correct me if I'm wrong, I think, don't they get the wrestling belt if they win this? That's the trophy for this tournament.
Oh, is it really?
I'm pretty sure.
That's pretty sweet. We need to get an 18 strong wrestling belt for some reason.
How do you win it?
I don't even know how. I think you and I just get one. We just start with it, and then maybe that's our thing. Maybe we just bring a belt wherever we play, and when somebody beats us, which they inevitably will, They just take the belt and then it just circulates around the country, around the world.
Sold.
I like it. Okay. Put that on the to-do list that we're getting a belt, 2 belts.
2 wrestling belts.
I like it. I'll talk to Brian Kessler.
There's a company online that I think they were on Shark Tank, and they started creating just like one-off, like fantasy football trophies, and it morphed into this whole thing. So they make these custom belts.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to work on that idea stat. For everybody that's on the line here, of course, as always, throw your questions in the chat box if you have questions. We tend to just talk about some random fodder at the beginning of these calls, but as questions come in, we can answer those too. But just always have a couple different topics in the golf world that we'd like to touch on, or fitness wise, or whatever. Anything else top of mind, Rhino?
No, it's just kind of, this week has kind of turned into fat loss week, which just from, I think, just being around town and guys kind of going through all these Christmas parties and coming up on New Year's, and January 3rd, I think, is that Monday. That's when everybody gets back into it for 6 days, and then it's over. I read that yesterday, that the average is 126 fad diets that people go on in their lifetime. And
we were wrong last week. I think we thought it was 86, but
I looked it up. And then the average time that they spend on it is 6 days.
Is it really?
Oh my God. Like, you're not going to get skinny that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is the perfect time to start talking about it, because most people are kind of in that mode of, all right, holidays are hitting, all the parties. And we tend to kind of relax the belts a little bit and kind of glide into the holidays, knowing that changes are coming in January, which to some extent, enjoy yourself, enjoy the parties, but don't go overboard and don't go crazy. But yeah, the whole idea of just the fat loss stuff is going to be, as it is every January, is the big thing. Like, how do you jump back into your program, or how do you finally lose that weight, right? Or how do you get back on track? And so, I mean, our whole deal is it's not about the crash diets. It's about building those solid habits of, what you're eating, how you're eating. And you and I were kind of going back and forth the other day. So just for you guys, like some of the principles and we're putting together a nutritional guide, we're calling it the 18 strong diet stack, I believe, where it's just kind of different levels of, kind of what we believe and what has really worked for ourselves personally, and then as well as for a lot of the people in the 18 strong crew. But Ryan and I were talking about just the importance of macros and calories and things like that, sizzling conversations that we have amongst ourselves. But, regarding like what's really important to look at when you're looking at calories, when you're looking at proteins, because we can get really, really granular on this stuff. I'm very much no pun intended, a meat and potatoes kind of a guy. Like, I like to simplify things as much as possible. Right. So, getting super granular on all these things, I think, can many times just stall us. We get into that paralysis by analysis situation. Sure. Whereas if we just look at like some big rock ideas. And so, when you're thinking of calories ultimately are kind of the biggest piece of it. Right. And then there's arguments that can kind of come out of that calorie bit, because then there's the quality of the food that you are intaking. There's obviously the amount of food that you're intaking. There's the amount that you're exercising. There's all these different things. And typically when we're working with a golfer that is looking to lose some weight or start to pay more attention, we just have them for somebody that's willing to dig into the caloric piece, because I've come across many people where that's kind of a sticking point at first. That's a resistance point where they don't even want to deal with that yet. And I was like that for a long time. I don't want to track all my calories. I don't want to put this into an app, or I don't want to write all this stuff down. I think it's important at some point or another in time, if losing weight or losing fat is your goal, that you should at some point track your calories for at least a couple of days, just so you have a general idea of what those are. And then really the kind of the calculation that we tend to use is if you're looking to maintain your weight, we would say your body weight, and this is in pounds, your body weight times 12 to 14 is kind of the range of calories that we're going to want to keep you in. And then if you are looking to lose fat, then we're going to scale you down a little bit from there. So, maybe go down to maybe start at 12 times your body weight, and then maybe knock 500 calories off of that if you're not reaching your goal. And we just kind of would stair step down from there. Too many people think, oh, well, I just the less calories I eat, the better off it's going to be. And then they go down to eating 800 calories or 1,000 calories a day, and then they're just wasting weight. And then their body goes into protective mode, and it's like, oh crap, I need to save everything, every ounce that I have, because I don't know when food is coming next, because I'm being starved to death. And so then you start to store some more fat. So we would say stick with that range of calories, 12 to 14 times your body weight to maintain, and then start dipping a little bit below that. And then really the biggest thing for you to pay attention to, as far as your macros being proteins, fats, and carbs, the biggest thing is make sure that you're getting a good amount, the right amount of protein. Studies have shown that if you're getting high quality protein, and we like to stick around the 33% of your caloric intake, let's say, just say 30% for sake of ease, 30% to 33% of your macros being protein, really the carbs and fats are kind of negligible. You can fluctuate those. Some people go, oh, I got to go super, super low carb. I got to go all fats, or vice versa. If you're looking to lose fat, those matter less than having the protein. The protein are the building blocks for your muscles. The proteins are what are really going to help you build the muscle. Now, Ryan and I both, we subscribe to more of a, laying low on the starchy carbs, breads, pastas, those kind of things. So that is kind of one of our levels that we put in our stack. But the big things are when you're ready, looking at your calories, making sure that you're hitting that mark. And so, like, if you're looking to gain mass, so this winter, I might be on a bit of a mass gaining diet or eating plan, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to have to kick it above that 12 to 14 times my body weight, right? So, but it's also doing it with good quality foods and not going crazy with, just a bunch of junk too. But if you look at your calories and then you look at your proteins and you're on mark there, those are really what's going to dial you in. And then again, the carbs, the fats, those are less important. But then I would say to dial it even further, then start to look at like getting rid of the processed stuff and a lot more of the whole foods. And you're going to notice a difference between the way that you feel. I think that's where a lot of the processed food stuff versus, you've got the argument that I forget what the name of the group is. If it fits your macros. So they're like, you can eat whatever you want as long as it fits in those macros, it fits your calories and your macro profile. But if you're eating pizza and donuts and all that stuff even if that's fitting into that macro profile or those calories or whatever, I personally feel like crap if I just eat a lot of that crap. If it's processed foods, if it's those kind of things. So that's where I think that we have to look at, the quality to me is a big deal as well. But for simplicity's sake, calories, proteins, those are kind of the big ones that we pay attention to.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, there was a guy in St. Louis who went on the all beer diet and he lost a bunch of weight, but it's just because he kept under his calories. But I'm like, God dang, what did that guy feel like every single day? Just eating. I mean, you could go on the all Twinkie diet. I think somebody did that once as well. And again, if you are burning more calories than you're putting in your body, you will lose weight. But
the McDonald's diet, all of those. Victoria asked, do you have a suggestion of grams
or pounds
or pounds of body weight? So typically it works out pretty close to your your weight in pounds per grams of protein. Now, some people may say that sounds like a whole lot of protein. And so if that scares you a little bit, then back it off a little bit from there. But that's generally kind of around the range that we recommend, and typically kind of breaks down in there. If we had Tony Soyba here, he'd be calculating that in his head, and he'd tell you exactly what that gram level was and percentage wise and everything. But and to be honest, Tony is, for those of you that don't know Tony, Joan, I know Joan's on here. She knows Tony very well. But Tony is probably the guy that I've talked to the most about, just dieting and performance and those kind of things. And he's really influenced the way that Ryan and I eat and what we project to our in-person clients, online clients, and everybody in the crew, because he's just so well researched and has such experience working with high-level athletes, pro athletes, as well as the regular people like us on the call here.
Us regular bodybuilders.
Yeah, exactly. You got any questions in the queue, Rhino?
I do. Somewhere. Okay. So this one's a pretty long one, so bear with me. I have a tendency, I think this, I forgot to write down, this is Dave, I believe. I have a tendency when walking 18 holes to start getting tight and cramping up, especially in legs, specifically calves. That sounds familiar.
Yeah. Oh, we got to talk about that.
Yeah, around the 13th or 14th hole. It seems that this occurs despite trying to get enough fluids, electrolytes, and eating snacks during a round ahead of time and during the round. I'm pretty consistently following either the monthly workout program or one of the Golf Body Blueprint programs. Any advice to address this by changing anything in my workouts or in preparing with food, fluids, or supplements?
And the cramping's primarily in the calves, did it say, or just legs
Yep.
in general?
I said especially in the legs, specifically the calves.
Okay.
Which I have a ton of experience going through this nonsense since I was a kid, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. So we'll get to our experience from this past weekend. I can't believe we forgot to talk about that. So for Dave and for anybody that deals with this stuff, yeah, the first thing that I would end up looking at is, the hydration levels. We've talked about this many, many times on this call and on the podcast, and rough estimate for hydration levels. And this goes to, or kind of comes from Robert Yang, who wrote the book, one of the best golf nutrition books out there. I don't think I have it over here. I'm trying, Hole in One Nutrition, by Robert Yang. And he suggests drinking at least half of your body weight. So again, in pounds, half of your body weight in water every day.
In ounces? In
ounces, right.
Okay.
Yeah, not in pounds.
Okay, no, not 170 pounds of water.
Right. So yeah, I'm about 170 pounds. So what would that be? 85 ounces of water every day.
Yeah, so
right?
10 8-ounce glasses, 11
Yeah.
8-ounce glasses.
So, and he recommends taking a little pinch of Celtic sea salt and putting that into your water, because that's going to provide some of the minerals, some of the sodium that you're going to lose just throughout the day, especially when we're out on the golf course. We've talked about the Live Pure products, which you can go to livepure.com, use the code 18strong. But so those have the hydration in them, the electrolytes in them. Those are great. But as far as like daily hydration, sometimes it's just a matter of having a strategy for that, right? So we talk about drinking 24 ounces of lemon water right when you wake up, or the first thing that goes into your mouth. So my personal routine, I drink that in the morning, so that I've got that 24 ounces right there. And then I just recently bought myself a Nalgene bottle that I branded, of course. But this is 32 ounces. And so then I try to fill this thing up multiple times a day. So if I fill it up twice, that's that's 64 ounces plus my 24 ounces in the morning. I'm pretty much set there. I would venture to say that I get probably 3 of these down in the course of a day. But I always have it with me. So that would be my first suggestion is just have a little bit of a hydration routine. Sounds like he's doing pretty well with that, but maybe, you know,
Right.
adding a little pinch of the sea salt, and then if he's not getting anywhere close to half his body weight in water, then ramping that up to try to get there. If supplementing with magnesium has been something that that people have suggested, or the people have tried and used. I use magnesium. It has definitely helped me with some cramping things. I'll use it. It's like, so Ryan and I did this trail race this past weekend. And I knew that, you know, the next day I'd probably be pretty sore and maybe a little bit crampy and dehydrated. So definitely did that. But I usually take it on a pretty regular basis. But magnesium is something that helps promote relaxation of the muscles. And so that is definitely a suggestion there. And then as far as like before a round, obviously doing some sort of a warm up, which if this is the Dave that I think it is that asked this question, I would assume he's doing a little bit of a warm up. Sounds like he's been on the programs for a while. He might want to add in a little bit more of calf work into his workouts. You know, we typically build in some sort of calf raises or something like that into our workout programs. But if it's something that he's struggling with, he might want to just make sure he's building up some of the strength in his calves, and even in the front of the shins, which is your tibialis anterior muscle. So almost doing like where you're kind of pulling your toes back up towards your shins, you know, to kind of work on where you would get like a shin splint. But building all the strength around the ankles is going to help with just general stability and strength of the entire lower leg. So he might be experiencing some extra compensation or extra work from the calves, just with the lower leg being a little bit tired and fatigued after, you know, walking 13, 14 holes. I would venture to say, Rhino, that would be a good thing for you to do, even just with having the cramping when you're running and stuff like that. Other than that, also those percussive devices like the Theragun, those kind of things, maybe doing that pre-round and then maybe even post-round, that pulsating vibratory massage gun, just to help with the muscles with relaxation there a little bit. But those would be my main suggestions. Hydration could be a huge one, but maybe even having to add in something like a magnesium or something like that.
Yeah, even like for like a home remedy, my mom told me this years ago, and it worked whenever I did it, is to, you know, eat a banana or eat a couple bananas. I guess this is the magnesium in there, the potassium in there, one of the two.
Yeah, it was mainly for the potassium of it, which, yeah, I mean, that's always, yeah, try eating a banana before going out. Some people will supplement with potassium as well. And that has been said to help cramping as well. I don't know if the banana is I don't know how much potassium is actually in it, and if that is really what's helping with the cramping or not. But yeah, that's always a remedy that, I mean, we've heard from the longest time ago, right?
Could be an old wives' tale. That, and I've heard pickle juice also, like the Eagles one Sunday was like 100 degrees out, and the other team cramped up, but they didn't, and they swore it was because of the pickle juice.
Well, pickle juice, and I need to look up the actual chemistry of this. Pickle juice, it's basically the sodium in the pickle juice.
Yeah.
I've heard yellow mustard as well. People, when they're cramping, will squirt yellow mustard in their mouth.
Animal House. Yeah,
like Animal House. You know, that's the whole reason for the salt pills back in the day. You know, people used to take salt pills. It's you know, it was the sodium for that. So yeah, in fact, if I know that I'm dehydrated, or, you know, I've been hanging out with you all night one night, I've been known to drink a little pickle juice, just as to kind of get a quick replenishment of sodium and minerals in the body, but then also hydrating with a lot of water as well. I see Steve Steve asked, what's the benefits of the lemon water? The lemon water, there's a couple different things in there. The vitamin C obviously is really good for just kind of immunity type stuff. Vitamin C is also good for your skin. Then it also has just the antioxidants that are in it. So it's not a must to put into your water, but it's a very simple little thing that adds a decent amount of benefit, that you just have to be careful with with putting too much lemon in there. If you have like sensitive teeth or you're worried about the enamel on your teeth, you have to worry about the acidity. So like my wife, she has one of those, she drinks it out of a straw every morning, so it never really hits her teeth. But I haven't worried about that yet.
You're fine. So explain to me, so the antioxidants, so you've got free radicals in your body, correct?
Yep.
Just floating around. So that's kind of the bad stuff. And then the antioxidants attach to the free radicals and neutralize them. Is that how this whole thing works?
Yeah. So I actually was reading about this in that book on grounding, that whole earthing and
Right.
grounding. And the way that they described it, it's kind of like having these. So free radicals are a necessary thing to have in our body. They come in and they attack, like inflammation in the body, irritation and inflammation in the body. They're going in and they are looking for, I believe, electrons in our body, and they go and they basically start to gobble those up. The way that they described it is, they said, imagine the free radicals being like security dogs that are roaming around your body at all times, and they're roaming around the junkyard, and they're going and looking for the bad guys, looking for the inflammation, these electrons that are flying around, and they go and get those. But then the dog then turns on the owner, is what they said. So if they're still running around the body and there's nothing in there to appease them, then they start to just kind of basically eat away at other things and cause that oxidative stress. So by getting antioxidants in there, or that's why they say the grounding also helps with inflammation and free radicals, because the grounding, you touching the surface of the earth, it allows those electrons to flow into your body, and those appease the free radicals.
Gotcha. Good. That's a good explanation. I like when people dumb it down for people like myself.
I knew you would like the security dog analogy, the kind of like story.
The JYD, the junkyard dog.
Junkyard dog.
Exactly. So Victoria had an excellent follow-up question. Can you comment on the impacts of ingesting alcohol? Victoria, we're drinking alcohol. We're not ingesting it. On your recommended high-protein diet. Impacts of booze.
The impact of booze
makes you happy on the protein diet?
It's enjoyable, but it's not the best thing for it. So basically, choosing to drink alcohol is definitely sabotaging the diet. There's no question about that. And in fact, when you have alcohol in your system, I've read that your body's first intent, so no matter how hard you work out, no matter how much cardio you're doing or strength training you're doing, whatever, the body's first intent is to basically get rid of that alcohol first. So it's really sabotaging your system when you do it. Now, as far as what's going on the profile of the macros and all that stuff, alcohol is like a different kind of it's not really, it doesn't really fall into carbs, fats, proteins. It's like its own separate deal. But yeah, basically it ends up dehydrating you. It ends up causing your body to have to focus on getting rid of it before it can work on strength, fat loss, all of those things. So it's definitely an impediment. It's definitely one of those things where you have to weigh, if you're putting in all of this time, all this effort, all of this intent in your training, are you willing to sacrifice and sabotage the drinking for that? And sometimes life says yes, I'm going to choose to go and hang out with friends and family and go on a guy's trip, and it's going to be part of that trip is going to be drinking on the course or drinking. But if you're somebody who is looking to perform at your highest level, you're looking to really hit your nutrition and diet hard, and you have goals set, alcohol should not be part of that program. It's one of those things that we, when we're on, when we're off, we're off. So it's all about what your intent is and what your goal is. And that's why, there are times during the year where it's not in my program, and I wipe it off the table for, typically over the last several years, it's been for Lent, and just don't touch it at all. And it's crazy how much of an impact that has on, just the way that you feel, the grogginess that you maybe have the next day, even small amounts of alcohol, a glass or two of wine. And that's what we noticed with the Whoop, right? Like anybody that has worn the Whoop or tried that stuff out, that's what Rory McIlroy noticed and really changed his thought process during tournament weeks, is just a glass or two of wine really impacts your restorative levels. So you just have to weigh out like what's more important to you. I know that, there's some people that are in our crew that are like, nope, not touching the stuff. I'm here to perform and I'm ready to go. But I would say that, the majority of the guys that we actually play golf with, drinking is a regular occurrence. They go out and have a couple of beers on the weekends, or, if they're, I've played with a lot of guys that don't drink while golfing. I've played with a lot of guys that do drink while golfing. It's all about your personal preference.
Yeah, it's a hard one. I wrestle with that quite a bit because I want to really, dial this in, but I also want to go out and have a good time and hoot and holler.
Yeah.
So yeah, someone's gonna invent something. Well, I guess you could smoke weed if that's what you're into. If you need some sort of outlet.
I will say that, Ryan and I, so we grew up very large family here in St. Louis. Alcohol has always been a part of our family parties, and it's a very social thing for our family, and just for all of our friends. And so to be honest, it's a big part of all the social events that we go to. And so, sometimes, we decide like, yeah, this is part of the enjoyment. And then sometimes it's like, no, I'm focusing on other things. I've got other goals in mind. So.
Yeah, and what helps me a lot. Well, number one, it's kind of what you're drinking. Big, especially if you're in weight loss or fat loss mode. If you are, I won't drink any IPAs. Maybe I'll drink a Mick Ultra instead of a big fat IPA, and I'll have a smaller dinner just to kind of offset some of the calories. But yeah, but the effects of the alcohol are still just not not great.
Right. It's a negative. It gets a negative score no matter what.
I know, no matter how many different ways I've done the math.
Right.
And believe me, I'm on the beer side.
Yeah.
Oh well. All right, cool. I had the wrong thing up. Okay, so this one's a little bit out of our wheelhouse. Do you hit the ball cleanly when it's very muddy or wet conditions, or do you take a divot as per normal? So basically, do you try and pick it off the top, or do you?
Well,
this is more of a coaching.
Yeah, I mean, but so this is interesting because the way that this is phrased is, and we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago about understanding the actual mechanics and physics of what's happening when you're hitting a golf ball, the way that a golf ball should be hit. So this person's asking if you should try to pick it off of, if it's wet or muddy or whatever. No matter what, you should be hitting the ball cleanly first, and then the club should be going into the turf afterwards. So to me, it doesn't really make a difference to think of it differently. Now, obviously, if there's mud on your ball and stuff, it's going to affect what happens with the ball, but I don't think you're trying to hit it any differently as far as the contact. And I could be wrong. I mean, we could ask our golf instructor buddies, but I don't think you're mentally trying to hit it any differently if it's wet, because you're trying to hit the ball first before you go into the turf. For anybody that's on Instagram, I just watched a very small little clip from Mark Blackburn. He was doing a photo shoot with Max Homa, and they had one of those super, super high speed cameras. And it was the cleanest video of a club. He was hitting just like a little chip shot of a club hitting the ball, sliding through, sliding under, and then hitting the turf. And you really get a feel for how clean those guys hit the ball before they end up gliding into the turf. And then, his divot is like an inch, 2 inches after where the
Right.
ball was, where that's where all of us go wrong. So to that question, you shouldn't be hitting any of that muddy, wet turf prior to hitting the golf ball.
Nice. Who was that had that video on there?
Mark Blackburn. Yeah, if you could pull that up, it's just a great visual.
I love those videos. They're outstanding.
Yeah, they were doing like a
Oh,
Titleist
yeah, I see it.
commercial. Can you share your screen?
Let me make sure that's the one. Is it like 15 seconds long? Oh yeah, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, like they show it quick first and then they show it real slow.
All right. Okay,
All
can
right.
you see that?
Yep.
All right,
Yeah,
check
watch
out.
this. This is cool.
Does this make it bigger? Oh, that's awesome. Look at me. All right. Oh, that was fast. But yeah, this is great for radio.
I mean, look at that. That ball's already well off the club face before he's getting into the ground.
Dude, that guy's a machine. I think Max Homa was he like number 2 on the FedEx standings right now.
Is he that high?
Yeah, he's having a heck of a year.
So yeah, I just thought that was really cool. That's a good video to watch before you go and play, just to get a visual of what's really happening.
Yeah, I know. I think that question is kind of comes from a place where you're like leaning back to get under the ball. It doesn't really in golf. It doesn't make any sense. Why am I hitting down on the ball to make it go up?
Mm-hmm.
Stupid sport.
Yeah, like that question just to me is somebody that thinks that they're hitting the ground at the same time that they're hitting the ball, which they really shouldn't be.
No, absolutely not.
Not saying that I do it that way every time, but
oh God, no. Especially on some of the courses we've been known to play.
Yeah,
snap the head off of some of those clubs. So kind of along that was a good segue that question about the cramping up.
Oh yeah.
With the walking 14 holes. Yeah, so kind of tell everybody about that 8 mile god awful trail run we did with the up and down all these hills. So I was talking to so it was a trail run, but there was
1,600 feet of elevation gain.
Very little flat area. And so one of my buddies who runs ultra marathons and is a really fast guy, he said typically on a race like that, every mile you'll elevate about 100 feet, and this one was 200 feet. So he said
twice.
Yeah, twice. He said that. So Andy, who you know, he said that's a challenging race, even like in Colorado or really mountainous areas like that. I mean, obviously we're not dealing with the thinner air here, but he said as far as the elevation gain, it was a lot.
But yeah, they say that it's probably the hardest trail run anywhere around this area. It's not the longest. I mean, it's still a good distance. It's 8 miles, but they say that like if you're going to do most people say if you're going to do a trail run, don't start with this one, which is exactly what you and I did. We decided, well, give me the worst one because I'm only going to do one.
Right.
But it's a cool event because first of all, there's almost 500 people in it, all ages, all men, women. You had a girl that Andy's daughter that is on your daughter's soccer team.
Yeah.
So she's 14 years old. I'd like to see what the oldest age was of somebody that did it. There had to be somebody in their 60s or 70s, probably. I would think. It
was so we stayed around because Sloan, my neighbor, she won a little medal, and so the oldest one, it was a 72-year-old. It was a plus 70 age group, and it was so he was 72, and he ran like a 1:25-ish, like an hour and 25 minutes,
that's pretty darn good.
Right. So the overall winner was like
53
minutes. But that's a really, really fast time for that. But yeah, it was cool. And what I liked about it, my favorite part is your buddy who you beat, who is a runner, who called you the next day and said, "Hey, what am I supposed to do, man?"
Yeah. So my buddy Tony, there there are several people that I had 2 years ago when I first did this. Um, Several different groups of friends all have run this race, and Tony was one of the guys that really kind of pushed to get me to do it. And we've always kind of gone back and forth about, you know, how I don't care for running. He actually does work out, or has worked out in the past. His brother is a physical therapist, so his brother and I are both telling him like, "Hey, dude, you need to start doing some more strength training to help your running." And so many of the runners that I meet, all they do is run for their workouts. Um, this would equate to, golfers. All they do is, just swinging different apparatuses, right? So it's like just doing the same old
Right.
thing. Um, and so after the race, so 2 years ago, and when you're racing, like I wasn't with Tony, I wasn't with Ryan. Like there's so many people, they set it out in waves where you go off in 30-second waves with a small group of people. So 2 years ago, Tony and I were actually driving from the race to this little place over in Alton, Illinois. And he's looking at the times and he goes, "Son of a bitch." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You beat me by 3 seconds." Like, oh, really? Awesome. And so then it was kind of, there was a lot of chirping going back and forth before this race with Tony. And, he just ran a marathon, I think a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And we were having these discussions about, he's like, I posted a video about me trail running to get ready. Like my first day of trail running, I called him out and he said, "Oh, I guess you have a head start. I haven't started my prep work." And I'm like, "What do you mean? You have a marathon in like a week?" He's like, "Yeah, but I haven't started running trails yet." And I'm like, "So me running one trail gives me a head start over your marathon training?" And so anyway, long story short, I beat Tony again this year by about a minute and a half, or almost 2 minutes. And he looked at me afterwards and he's like, we were standing next to this other guy who looked like a pretty serious runner. And I was introduced to him. His name was Walker. And Walker came in third place. And Tony just says to Walker, he's like, this my buddy Jeff here, because they're friends. He's like, "My buddy Jeff here, he's the testament why all of us runners need to do some strength training, because he doesn't run at all. And he just beat me for the second year in a row."
Right.
And I was thinking about all these guys. Obviously this Walker guy is very fast. Our other friend, Michael, just ran the Boston Marathon in under 3 hours. And he doesn't do any strength training. And I'm like, "Man, just let me get my hands on you guys and put together a program for you to just put a little bit of strength training in your program." Because as we say all the time here, it does so many things that these guys need. It'll give them more power when they're running and propelling themselves. It's going to help reduce their injury rates, because all of these guys have banged up knees and ankles and things like that. And they don't do anything but go and rack up the miles on the road. And so we had a lot of conversations. And then, yeah, Tony called me the next day. He's like, all right, I need you to help me with the program. I'm going to start putting it in. I'm going to do a half marathon and whenever. So we're going to get him a program. Then I'm like, this will be a cool little experiment to see, how well you do with getting some. And for him, I'm basically, what I would do is not that different from what I would do with a golfer, except that he doesn't need to move quite as much as far as like rotation stuff and things like that, and anti-rotation drills. But we're still going to build up a lot of core strength. We're going to do a lot of unilateral and bilateral lower body stuff, split squats, deadlifts. And then even, I'm going to get him doing like some pull-ups and things like that. Just some good, strong, basic upper body movements that are also going to be building core strength throughout. Because if you think about it, they're running, so they need that core strength. And then as far as their lower body is concerned, that if the more strength they have to propel off of each step, and the stronger their body is to be able to absorb the shock of every step, it's just going to make them that much more efficient. So if we could do that and find the right balance of getting them some strength training exercises without impeding too much on, the amount of running that they do, because it's going to be hard to tell a runner to scale back the miles that they have planned out for their training.
Right.
But I think these guys could all, including Michael, who is an incredible road runner. I think that all these guys could see some serious improvements in their time and just the way their body feels.
Oh, for sure. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of where they were going wrong on the trail was, they're so used to just being flat. They didn't have, the strength to, like, again, propel themselves up and, almost like being on a stair stepper, going up those hills like that. It takes a different kind of strength than just running on a flat course.
Yeah. And actually I talked to Michael about this because he says that, when he's running, his strength is usually kind of the uphills. It's like the Boston Marathon is a very hilly course, which I had no idea. But he said that he's pretty strong on the uphills usually. And so during this race, he was back and forth with this one guy, and he would beat this guy on every uphill, but then that guy would kill him on the downhills. And the downhills are surprisingly difficult. You would think that that's the easy part, but you have to have a lot of control. First of all, that's the dangerous part too. Like if you don't know how to stair step and sidestep rocks and roots and trees and stuff like that. But also, and I felt this on myself, like as my legs were getting tired, it was a little bit more clumpy going downhill. Right. And that's hard. There's a lot of shock when you're going down those hills. And so I see a lot of the benefit there of having the strength and control of being able to run downhill with some speed, still have some spring in your step. And that's where Michael said he got to that very last hill, which was a big one, but then the finish of the race is all downhill. And he looked at the guy and he said, "Go ahead."
See you later.
Yeah. See ya. So
yeah, I noticed that like at the end of the race downhill, I was almost like running on my heels just so I wouldn't tumble down. Yeah, I get it. It got pretty hard at the end there.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're idiots and we'll do it again next year. And
so you had some cramping issues and stuff like that too during that race, right?
Yeah, exactly what we were talking about in my calves. With about 2 miles left is when I felt the first kind of twinge where the next step could have been the last one. I could have just, where you just get a full Charlie horse and have to stop. So that slowed me down a little, and I didn't prepare properly. I tried to drink a bunch of water the night before. I didn't drink any alcohol, Victoria, if that's what you're thinking. Which is on a Friday night for me to not even have beers.
That was unheard of. That was impressive. I was very impressed.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't eat anything that morning because I never eat breakfast. I'm like, I'll be fine. So I just need to do a better job of preparing. And the same thing happened to Jamie too, where he was cramping up at the end in his calves.
Oh yeah.
Moneta Jamie.
Yeah, he didn't train for it either. That's the funny thing is here's an 8 mile race, hardest one. And most of us didn't really train for it. Next year, we'll, and we're just like everybody else. Next year is going to be my year. Next year we're going to do it. So right now on this call, I'm telling you guys that next year I'm going to be more prepared for that race than I was this year.
So you're going to run 5 times instead of 4 times beforehand?
No, well, I would have run more, but I had that little calf issue myself
right.
But I did do some of the Airdyne bike to try to get a little bit of my lungs and my legs a little more prepared. But 30 minutes on an Airdyne bike, 6 times isn't going to prepare you for an hour and a half, hour and 15-minute race.
You were an hour 17 and 18 seconds, maybe?
Just under, an hour and 17 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's to everybody listen, that was a pretty legit time especially not for running, especially when you're beating guys who are quote unquote runners.
Yeah.
That's I was really surprised at how fast you were, like in a good way. Not like, oh, this guy sucks, but like, man, that's excellent.
I thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so so we had this question actually answered in an email earlier. We talked about it earlier today. So, is my regular fitness workout good enough to suffice for a golf fitness workout? And again, regular is kind of in quotes. It's called a generic fitness routine.
Yeah, that was the thing. When you say regular fitness workout, we don't really know what that means. So the answer is yes and no. The answer is that doing a generic workout program, and that could be something that you just make up on your own. That could be a DVD. We always use the P90X as in a lot of our examples, and those can be helpful because they're going to get you into better shape. They're going to get you doing things that you normally wouldn't be doing. They're going to get you stronger. But when you have a program that is specifically geared towards golfers, that there's going to be things in there that we know are important as far as the way that you need to move, the trunk, getting the trunk rotating, stability and motion in the hips, even just, doing some more of the unilateral stuff. So a regular fitness program it can be so many different things. That could be CrossFit, that could be, jazzercise, that could be,
Sure.
whatever. But what we pride ourselves on here is that we know that everybody doing our programs is a golfer, and that there are specific things that they need to be able to do. They want to make sure that they have enough mobility and control to get a good backswing. They want to make sure that they have good sequencing of the lower body. They want to make sure that they can use the ground properly to be able to generate power and force off the ground. You need leg strength for that. You need to be able to kind of have some side to side stuff. So you need more angles in your programs than just pushing, pulling, or, straight line stuff, which is why we do some lateral stuff. We do rotational stuff. We do things that are trying to make you rotate, and we prevent rotation. So, yeah, the answer is that general fitness is great. And that's why we always tell people, first and foremost, we want you to do something that you enjoy doing, because doing something is always going to be better than doing nothing. And when you're ready to then take it to the next level, then that's where we come in, where we've got our programs, we've got the different, guidance that we can give as far as ways to then take that general fitness program and make it more specifically geared towards what your goals are. And that's the idea. We've been talking a lot about these micro workouts that we're going to be putting out pretty soon. And really, we're using those to almost bridge the gap between the person that doesn't know what to do, the person that's just kind of, tinkering around with the fitness stuff, or they're just kind of doing a general routine or general workout, but they're not ready to jump into a full-blown 8-week program. That's kind of always been the hang up for a lot of people that are in our crew, is they're not quite ready to totally commit to a full 8-week program or even 4-week program. And so the micro workouts are geared towards just getting you doing something, but every single one of those little workouts that are going to take 20 minutes or less are all specifically hand-picked exercises to make sure that we're getting, every little bit of total body workout. We've got you rotating, we've got you pushing, we've got you pulling, we've got you squatting, we've got you hinging, we've got you doing all these different things. But we wanted to make it easy. And so it's all body weight and then with resistance bands, but it just has more of that focus specifically for, the person that I hear it all the time. If I'm going to work out, I want to make sure it's good for my golf game. And that's exactly what these workouts are. They're simple, they're efficient, but they're especially simple and efficient for golfers.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'll be pretty popular. Okay, so we've got 5 minutes left here. If you have any questions, please, if you're on the call, go ahead and put it in the chat. So we have another, hold on one second. My kid just got home from school, you turkeys.
I heard Shirley running around in the background.
Right. Hey, Murph. Thanks. It sounds like they ran home from school. Thanks, buddy. I'm just on the call. So professional around here. Okay, so the last one I had on the list was, again, a weight loss thing, so last night I met up with some guys, and one of the guys, he's a rotund gentleman, and we got on the subject of like no carbs. So 3 months ago, he's like, "Oh, I was doing really well with my no carbs. I'm gonna get back on it after the holidays," which we've all heard that 1,000 times. And I'm like, Greg, you're looking at this all wrong. It's like he'll do it, and then he'll see some results, and he'll stop, and then he'll do it. It's like, dude, what can you do the entire time? Like his relationship with food is so wrong. It's I don't even know what it's like where it's like he has to get back into maintenance. Like getting your oil changed like every 3,000 miles. Like, oh, now I'm fat again. I need to go get my oil changed and do this. Like, dude, just make it the same thing all the time, and your life will be so much easier.
Hmm.
I sat next to him a bunch of times when I'm having a couple beers, and he's like, "Man, I'm so jealous." I'm like, "No, you can have a beer too. If you just do the right things to get off this goddamn roller coaster."
Yeah,
Um,
it's the whole wave of, on and off and on and off and on and off. I don't know why this came to my mind, but that would be like, that aim point system that people used to putt with,
yep.
like, which I've adopted using that a lot. I haven't gone through the full blown course, but we had what's his name, Mark, I believe, on the podcast, and he explained a lot of it, and so I got a lot of the gist of it, and just the little bit that I know has helped. But that would almost be like saying that a guy or a girl starts using aim point, they start putting really, really well using the system, and then they're like, okay, all right, I'm gonna stop doing that for a while,
Right.
and then their putting goes to shit again. Time to start using aim point again. It's like,
Right.
like it doesn't make any sense, right? Like you wouldn't do that as a putter. You would keep using the system and keep putting well. But for us, or for anybody on these roller coasters of diets, it's like just start to build in the habits that we talk about, the 80-20 principle so often, 80-20, 90-10. And unfortunately, it feels like sometimes we're just kind of regurgitating the same stuff, but it
Oh, yeah.
really is that simple. It's like, just find the right things that work for you. Back to the nutrition stuff, the diet stack. It's like, start working your way into these better habits of lots of good protein, lots of vegetables, lots of hydration, exercise, do some sort of movement every single day. And I mean, really, it's that. That's
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah. We're not going to sell many diet books because
No.
it's not that hard. I think you just have to. It's one of those things you just have to do it yourself. Like we can say it till we're blue in the face. I'm sure that works for you, but simplest answer is usually the right one.
Well, I feel like the more we do this, the more people we work with, the more that we ourselves, kind of experiment and do different things. The more I find that it's not that we have a lack of info problem. Obviously, that's not the case. It's not that we, people haven't found something that's going to work. Almost every diet is going to work.
Oh yeah, they all work.
What we don't have a consistency, or we have a consistency problem. We have a discipline problem of just doing it. And that's kind of the idea behind, our idea of the Forge in January, is where you're just focusing on doing the tasks. Like you don't even have to have a fancy prescription of diet or whatever. You have to figure out, something simple that you can stick to every single day, workouts every day, or, and that's what we need to get the message out, is that if you decide to do something and you just do it consistently for long periods of time, you're going to eventually get to whatever that goal is. That's what we saw with our guys in the RFG, is, all these guys stopped focusing so much on the details and the complexities and all that. And we said, just trust the process and just do it. And they all said, once they decided to let go of, the goal and let go of all the nuances, and they just trusted the process and did the things every single day, that's when it all started working.
Yeah, for sure. And you and I have lived it. That's why I live in. So the question is actually, can tea or coffee help me lose weight?
Yeah, if you drink that instead of soda.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. So
tea, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. Green tea is is a little better than black tea, from what I understand, just as far as the caffeine profile. But and I don't even know if I don't even know why that is. But coffee and tea they're very low caloric drinks. But you don't want to overdo the caffeine either. I would stick with the coffee and tea in more of the morning, simply because caffeine is going to mess with your hormones and your circadian rhythms and your cortisol levels and things like that. If you're off with, like if you have caffeine late in the day, that's going to mess up the whole cycle of you being able to sleep and things like that. Even when people say, oh, I can drink an espresso, like my brother-in-law, Dino, he'll drink an espresso at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. or used to. I think he's starting to notice a difference now. And I can drink an espresso at 10 p.m. and not have a problem and sleep all night. Well, it's the quality, and I think people are seeing this with the Whoop. It's the quality of the sleep that you're then getting after doing that. And it really messes with your hormone profiles, testosterone levels, all of these things, cortisol levels. But coffee and tea are your better bets than any kind of obviously sugary drinks. That's another one of our levels in our diet stack. Sticking with water, coffee, and green tea are kind of our suggestions. But again, with the caffeinated drinks, I would stay away from those in the afternoon.
yeah. Now, so I don't drink coffee. Does it suppress your appetite at all?
I think it can. I haven't really thought about it. It's not something that I would ever have used it for or thought about too much.
Right.
I
Yeah.
have used coffee with some grass-fed butter in it. And that definitely suppresses your appetite. That gives you the fuel, the fats, the fuels to go longer, like when you're fasting, things like that. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure I've heard that coffee can suppress or caffeine maybe can suppress your appetite, but
Right.
not a
And I'm
reason
not
I've used it.
right. I'm not suggesting we meal replace with coffee.
No.
Yeah, you could probably you can find a study for either side of everything. No, coffee doesn't do anything. No, coffee is a miracle appetite suppressant.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
all right.
Coffee's okay in my book because I
Yeah.
love it.
That's what matters. All right, the queue is clean, so we are ready to rock.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us again this week. I think we'll be doing this next weekend, right now? Thursday?
Yep, Christmas Eve is Friday. Yeah. So
Okay.
we're still on.
Still on, and then we'll probably talk about the following week. I know that's a weird week around here, so we may take a break off in between Christmas and New Year's. But appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Stay
See you,
strong.
everybody.